after our Tara Puja on Chinese New Year last week, somebody said to me, because we had made such big and quite beautiful offerings during the puja, that it really made them think about the state of their own mind when they made offerings. And so asked me to speak a little bit about that, and also about how to make offerings itself. Because this person realized, we have a rota for making offerings. So then the mind says, well, it's just one more chore that I have to do at the Abbey. And since I have to get up a little bit early in the morning to do it, it's really a pain in the neck. So I go in the kitchen and I grab whatever is easiest, slap it in a bowl, throw it on the altar, and I've done my chore. And she said that, after the puja on Thursday, it really made her think that she somehow didn't have the right attitude about making offerings. That it isn't a chore, it's actually a privilege. When you think about it, you can only make offerings when you have a mind that can understand the Dharma and the purpose of making offerings, and when you have the wherewithal. We're making the actual offerings. If you don't have actual things, you can do it in your mind. But we start with having actual things, and we have that due to the kindness of the people who support the Abbey. So it's like people are giving us the wherewithal so that we can create the merit of offering to the three jewels, which is a privilege for us to have that opportunity to do it. So somehow calling it a chore rota, I think we need some different labels, because the labels influence the attitude, don't they? Yeah, and so to really see it as something, what a beautiful opportunity that I have to do this. And similarly, caring for the meditation hall in general, setting up for posada, setting up for pujas, you have to rearrange the seats and everything like that. What a lovely chore to do, to create a beautiful space for people to come and then meditate in and create merit in. And all you have to do is move a few cushions. It's not, it's like, it's really, we should approach these kinds of things with delight and with pleasure. Not just as one other thing that I'm supposed to do or ought to do or have to do, and why isn't somebody helping me? I remember when I lived in Italy, there weren't very many monastics there, and so, my job, as maybe I was the only one at that time, was to take care of the meditation hall. And I really loved that, polishing the Buddha, cleaning the altar. The rest of the center was chaotic, and I got to stay in the hall and, make a connection with the Buddha in this way. And I loved it, So we should really kind of appreciate that opportunity. Similarly, when you're making offerings here, this altar, or down in Ananda, or in your own altar, And also when you travel, take some small pictures or a small statue with you. Make offerings every day. You don't have to take water bowls with you. That can be cumbersome. But it's easy to make a food offering whenever you're traveling, And it's very easy to do. If you're not staying somewhere where they already have an altar, you just set your own up in your room and do that. Okay, then to explain, like the 8 offerings, because we already have a video about making water bowl offerings, but setting up the 8 offerings when we're doing pujas, is a different kind of thing. And so the 8 offerings are water for rinsing. Yeah, water for rinsing your mouth, water for washing the feet, then offering flowers, incense, light, perfume, food, and music, okay? Those are the 8. And they come from an ancient Indian custom, because it's hot and dusty in India, that when a guest came over, the first thing you would do is you offered them something to drink. You'd make it available to them so they can wash their feet. Yeah, then you had flowers. This was important guests. You offered incense, put out lights, gave them some perfume. Then you offered them a very nice meal. And after the meal, there was some music for entertainment. Okay, so this was, in ancient India, the way the lay people welcomed their guests and treated their guests very well. Yeah, and so it's the same idea when we are making offerings to the like Tara or Medicine Buddha or, the merit field of Lama Chopa or whatever. Okay, so we put the 8 substances on the altar. Okay, you have the first 2 that are water, to rinse the mouth, to wash the feet. Then you put flowers, then you put incense. If you don't burn incense, then you usually just put a few sticks of incense, or you have a bowl maybe with some chips of sandalwood or something in it. And then light. The light can be a candle or it can be an electric light. Take care with this so that it doesn't set a place on fire. And I'm not kidding, because I've known Dharma centers who have had problems with fire. Okay, so light, and then some perfume. You can have a bowl of water, put a few drops of perfume in it, or you can put a bottle of perfume. Some food, and then usually the music offering is when you play the bell and the damaru, the drum. During the puja, so you usually don't have to put out a separate instrument there. If you put a conch or a bell, it's fine, nothing wrong with it. But if you don't, that's completely fine too. Okay, for the Lama Chopa, we usually put out 4 waters in the beginning, because there's also water for sprinkling and water for, I forget what the 4th one is for, but something. Yeah, maybe bathing, or I can't remember. Okay, but we put four waters out. Okay, so we put the actual substances out, and we say Omahong when we're putting them out. But then what we do in our mind is we imagine that these are multiplied and purified, okay, so that we're not just offering, ordinary flowers and ordinary food, but we imagine that, that they are manifestations of the wisdom of bliss and emptiness, so that when we offer them to the Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas, that they experience bliss and realize emptiness by virtue of our having made those offerings to them. And by thinking that they experience bliss and emptiness, it makes us think, well, what in the world is bliss and emptiness? And what would it feel like for me to experience this too? And if the Buddhas are seeing things in this way, maybe I should try and see them in this way as well. Okay? And so you multiply and expand these things. You think that they're very pure. They don't create attachment in either you or whoever you're, definitely not in the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but, you don't want to see them with attachment either. And so when you offer fruit, it doesn't have chemicals, it doesn't have a skin, it doesn't have pits and, things like that you have to take out. You just imagine everything's beautiful and made of light and sparkling, and a manifestation of the mind of wisdom, which is what you're really offering, okay, is your own mind of wisdom to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Okay, so before you make the offering, you motivate with bodhicitta. to make the offering in order to attain full awakening for the benefit of sentient beings. You make the offering slowly, mindfully, feeling your fortune in being able to make offerings. And then, afterwards you pause. You can say the mantra, the Om Namah Bhagavate Bhavamadana, that mantra, and when you say that mantra, you imagine that you expand all the offerings so that they fill the entire sky. And you can even think that what the scene you're creating exists on every atom of the universe. So every atom of the universe, there's, you offering to the triple gem, and the whole sky filled with, just skies of offerings, to universes full of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then at the end, you dedicate the merit, and by this time you feel really rich because you've transformed your own attitude into bodhicitta. You've done this beautiful offering, and thinking about beautiful offerings really lightens up our own mind, makes our own mind invigorated and feels very, then we approach life from a beautiful aspect when we imagine beautiful things around us. Okay? And then you dedicate the merit for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, so with regards to the 8 offerings, I know the symbolism of some of them, not all of them. Clearly the water is, for washing, for clearing away negativities and defilements. The flowers, sometimes, like in the Lama Chopa, the flowers represent the virtues of ourself and others. Flowers also fade, and so it reminds us of impermanence. But if you want to offer artificial flowers that don't fade, that's also perfectly fine, because anyway, cut flowers that you buy at the flower store are very bad for the environment because they have to use a lot of chemicals to make them, and then they have to transport them in planes, which burns up puts a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So if you have a regular plant or you use artificial flowers, that's also fine. The light usually represents wisdom. Okay, perfume represents the scent of pure ethical conduct. Yeah, food, in the Lama Chopa, food represents the fruit of the path. Okay, so you offer fruits, the fruits of the path, the 3 chainings, the 6 far-reaching practices, the 2 tantric stages, and then food also represents attaining samadhi, because they say when you have very firm meditative stabilization, that then you don't need to eat gross food. And then sound represents impermanence, and then also by implication emptiness. So those are the ones that I know. So you can also think about those when you're making the offerings. Okay? So in retreat, you have the chance to make a lot of offerings. Yeah, so I really recommend you take advantage of doing that. Yeah, some people make the offerings in the morning and then leave it like that. Some people, before each session, might put a little bit more water in the bowls, just a drop more in each of the bowls. And again, thinking that they're making all of the 8 offerings again. So that depends on your preference, how you want to do that. Okay, so when you take down the offerings, then with the water, dumping it out, then you think you are, taking all the defilements of sentient beings, and dumping them out. Yeah, and with the bowls that the water was in, you can wipe them or not wipe them. If they're bowls that don't stain, you can just put them, on their side so that they air dry. That's fine. If they're ones that stain, then best to dry them. And you always put the bowls upside down. If you're offering real flowers and not plants or artificial flowers, then you can leave them until they start to fade. You don't have to change them every day. Food, I think it's good to change every day, if you can. And also we usually have the habit of making another food offering as well. And when you take down the food at the end of the day, I mean, when you take down any of the offerings, you see yourself as the person who's being the caretaker for what belongs to the Buddha. Okay? So it's not like, there's been these nice chocolates on the altar and I've been craving them during the whole puja and now I get to eat them. Yeah, not like that. Okay? But you can take them down and you can share them with other people. You can eat them yourself, okay? Okay.